Your initiation into writing your first major musical, Godspell, seems quite a challenge. Was it difficult to go see a play and then rewrite the score in 5 weeks?
Not really. The thing about Godspell, first of all, it had some songs in it, yes, which were either written by cast members or they were interpolated songs from, pop songs from the period, etc. So it was conceived as a piece that would have music in it, and actually it was fairly easy because I had seen the show. When you start a new show like Wicked, and you have this idea, but all you've got is some novel that somebody wrote on a piece of paper and a keyboard and blank paper in front of you, and you sort of have to come up with stuff, and you're not quite sure what's that show going to be. That I find that always daunting and challenging. With Godspell, I went and I saw the show, and basically the show that opened, that went into rehearsal 5 weeks later with the score that I had written, wasn't all that much different than the show that I saw, except that it had these songs in different places. So yeah, there were far less mysteries to be solved on Godspell, and I think that's one of the reasons that I was able to do it relatively quickly.
And I believe you started writing Pippin, or Pippin, as it was
right,
first known, in your high school years.
It was actually university. I did it when I was in college, yeah.
Okay.
When I was at university, which was at a school called Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, which is northeast America, and they have a very sort of strong drama program there. So, but they also had an extracurricular organization, like a club, that put on an original student-written and produced and performed musical every year. And I co-wrote the musical the 4 years that I was there. And the third year that I was there with a friend of mine, we wrote the show called Pippin, about the son of Charlemagne and sort of the court intrigues as he tried to take over power from his father and so on. And then over time, because some people in New York who heard some of the songs from it became interested in pursuing it, over time it sort of changed and developed and became less and less about actual Charlemagne and his son, and more about kind of the youth culture of the time and a young man trying to figure out what to do with his life. So.
I've read that when you write a song, you begin with an idea or a title, and then go freely with whatever inspires you, whether that be music or lyrics. Do you work the same way when you're collaborating with others?
Yes, absolutely. For instance, the movie Enchanted, which I think you have here now, and I wrote with the writing partner that I've often worked with when I do stuff for Disney, Alan Menken, and that's precisely how we work. We sort of give ourselves an assignment. We're going to write a song for this spot in the film, and this is the story that we're telling here, and I try to come up with the title, and he tries to come up with a musical feel, and then we jump from there. Obviously, if you're writing a show or a score for a movie, you have the overall journey in mind. I mean, I'm very aware of and care a lot about story structure and what I would call the arc of the whole piece. For instance, just talking about Enchanted for a moment, it's about an animated character, a sort of classic Snow White type Disney heroine who gets an evil spell put on her and she gets sent into contemporary New York. But the idea of that score was that we would start in animation with a song that was satirical of, but felt as if it could have been in Snow White or Cinderella or one of those things. And then as she is more and more affected by the contemporary world, the style of the music changes. So the first two numbers are sort of classic old-time Disney numbers, and then there's a production number that feels like it could have been in Little Mermaid. It's deliberately, in the park. It's called That's How You Know, and it deliberately sort of makes fun a little bit of Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl, and production number for Hunchback of Notre Dame that Alan and I wrote, and all those sorts of numbers. We sort of do that, but then by the end of the movie, the last song is voiceover. You don't see anybody's mouth moving on screen, more or less the way contemporary, current animated features like the CGI features that Pixar does when they have a little Randy Newman song, and it's by far the most pop of the songs. So you sort of feel the journey in time that the score makes while the character's making that journey, and that was our concept.
And there was a murdered darling in that one.
There's always a murdered darling. Yeah, I didn't murder that darling. There was a song for the last song, Ever After. We wrote for Adina to sing, and then Disney, they liked the song and they kind of got a pop star to do it. Carrie Underwood, who's one of our and she's a terrific singer, but frankly, I still wish Adina had sung it. I still feel that would have been righter for the whole thing artistically, but Carrie did a great job. But there was a murdered darling. Alan and I felt that the villainess, who's played by Susan Sarandon, that she needed a song, so we wrote a song for her, but the director just wouldn't go for it. I still think that should have been in the movie, but that's just me.
Do you have any or many favorite songs of the ones that you've written?
Sure.
Yeah,
I have lots of favorite songs, the ones that I've written. I mean, I wouldn't write them if I didn't like them. Well, that's not quite true. I have several songs that I've written that I don't like, but I try to make sure that no one hears them. I mean, obviously there are some of the famous songs, such as Colors of the Wind, that are among my favorites. But my personal favorites tend to be slightly more obscure, or maybe much more obscure. There's a song from my show Children of Eden called Stranger to the Rain that, for whatever reason, it's very sort of influenced by Sting. And for whatever reason, I just love that song, and I love to play it, and it just feels good to me. Physically, it feels good. And so that's one of my favorites. I did an interview earlier where somebody came in and quoted lyrics to me from a pop song that I wrote called Forgiveness is Embrace, which I didn't expect anyone to know, and that's one of my favorites. And the opening of The Baker's Wife chanson. So those three, those are my three kind of obscure children that I love. Somebody asked me my absolute favorite song of all time the other day, so I thought about it and I have an answer, and it's a song. I don't know if you had it down here. It's a song by Joni Mitchell called Both Sides Now.
Yes.
That's my favorite song. I mean, we were just talking about Sting, and he has a song on the Soul Cages album called Why Should I Cry For You that just, I just could listen to it over and over and over again. So.
And I just want to finish asking about your son, Scott.
Yes, my hotshot director's son.
Yes, and he's directing your first opera.
He will be directing the
Yes.
opera, yeah, which is, we've been looking to work together for a while, so that's great.
Yes, and he directed Godspell.
He did a very successful revival of Godspell, but he sort of did it under the radar because at that point, because that was maybe 6-7 years ago, I think, and he had done some stuff that had gotten some attention, but he was really trying to establish himself by nothing to do with me, but he got offered this production of Godspell, and we talked about it, and because it was not going to major cities, he felt, well, I could do that without everybody thinking, oh, I'm just writing on my father's name. Then it got reviews that, his mother would not have dared to write. It was just unbelievably well received, so there it was out there for all to see.
Did he speak to you about it much while he was directing?
Frankly, not a lot. He had, obviously he told me what his take on it was, lest I be horrified and offended, but I thought it was very clever and original, and then he just went and did it, and I went to see it when it opened and thought it was really interesting.
Well, you're very busy. I believe you've just done workshops for the opera?
Yeah, I just came from New York where we did a reading of the first act of the opera, which, much to my relief, went quite well. So.
Excellent. And that will be staged next year?
Next year, fall of 2009, it's opening at Opera Santa Barbara, which is a company in California. And then while I'm here in Australia, I'm meeting with people from local opera companies in the hopes that maybe someone will be interested and I can find a way to get myself back to Australia in a few years.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you. My pleasure.